Well, welcome back, my friends. This is part 2 of the Monday Harmony class video. I ended part 1 as my lovely wife came in and reminded me we were heading out for a Diet Coke. And you simply don't say no to an invitation like that. And so here is part 2. We were reviewing the diatonic 7th chords, heading up the scale in C minor. There's the minor 7th chord on the first scale degree. Minor 1-7 on the second scale degree. The 2 half diminished 7th chord on the third scale degree. The major 3, major 7 on the fourth scale degree, the minor 7th chord. On the 5th scale degree, made a big deal about this one. You'll spell it like this: G, B flat, D, F, and you'll lose a point because you'll forget that it should include a B natural, which is the leading tone. You won't spell it wrong because I know you'll remember to put that leading tone in there to get the major minor 7th quality. Then on the 6th scale degree, there's a major 6, major 7 chord. So uppercase Roman numeral 6, big M7. And then on the 7th scale degree, another chord that is the source of much consternation amongst young heads full of mush, such as yourself. The fully diminished 7th chord. You may, if you're not paying attention, you may spell the chord on the 7th scale degree in minor like this, in C minor. You might say, well, B flat's in the key, so that sure sounds like a major minor 7th chord to me. However, they didn't build it on B flat, they built it on B natural, which was the leading tone. It becomes the fully diminished 7th chord at that point, including a leading tone, which then took you home to, that was a good way to resolve chord progression back to the tonic. So you can't get the tonic from, that chord goes to E flat. And that's not the tonic of C minor. So that was not the chord they chose on the 7th scale degree. So minor 1-7, 2 half diminished 7th, major 3, major 7, minor 4-7, major minor 7th chord on the 5th scale degree, so 5-7, major 6, major 7, and then 7 fully diminished on the 7th scale degree. Those are the common chord types of 7th chords in the minor scale. Just by way of review, they're all built on the harmonic minor scale. So if you use harmonic minor when you get to that 7th scale degree and you stack up the 7th chord, you've solved your issue. You've remembered to build it on a leading tone. It's this chord on the 5th scale degree that's not correct unless you raise that B flat to B natural. So that's all summarized for you on page 62 at the bottom in this handy little chart. Common diatonic 7th chords in minor. Yes, there it is. So study that and let it really sink into your head. Okay? Now, at the top of 63, it looks like a paragraph you could skip, but it's not. It's pretty important. The author says, remember that the bass position symbols when you invert 7th chords are 6-5 and 4-3 and 4-2. This means that 5-7 in first inversion is simply written 5-6-5. It is not written 5-7-6-5. So here I've sort of summarized what he just said there. At the top, you can see 5-7. I've listed the chord there for you in root position first. So let's see if I can get my pencil involved here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, here it is in root position. Over here it is in first inversion. So 5-7, that means a stack in root position, a 7th chord in root position. Here, 5-6-5, it means a 7th chord in first inversion. And here's the temptation. You come down here, and sometimes I'll see students do something like this. They'll write a chord and they'll say, oh, it's a 7th chord. I need to be sure and let everybody in the world know it's a 7th chord, and it's in first inversion, 6-5. No, that is not correct. 7 means this is a 7th chord in root position. 6-5 means this is a 7th chord in first inversion. Therefore, if you say on your test or your quiz or whatever, 7-6-5, you're being contradictory. You're saying this 7th chord, the one notated here, is both in root position and first inversion. That's what you're saying with this. So that is not correct. You can't have it both ways. It's either in root position or it's in first inversion. So here's what root position looks like, 5-7. A 7th chord in first inversion would be 5-6-5. A 7th chord in second inversion, like if we were to build it on that note right there, would be 5-4-3. Or if we were to build it all the way up on the F, third inversion, it would be 5-4-2. So the number 7, that tells the world this chord is a stack in root position. The numbers 6-5, this chord is a 7th chord, but hey, the third is the lowest note. 5-4-3, hey, this is a 7th chord whose 5th is the lowest note. And 5-4-2, hey, this is a 7th chord whose 7th is in the bass position. So let that kind of rattle around in your brain, if you will, and he makes a very good point of all of that. Also, I got to show it to you because it's pretty important. Here at the top of the page, there's that little paragraph I was talking about. He mentions that, by the way, minor 7th chords do not get a little m like major 7th chords do. Remember the major 1, major 7? It's uppercase Roman numeral 1, big M 7. Well, when you get to the next chord, the minor 2-7 chord, you would think it would be little 2, little m 7. Well, it's not. It's just little 2, 7. So, again, some words of wisdom there that I think will save you some heartbreak when it comes time for the quiz. All right, so when you come down to the self-test 4.2 on page 63, which we probably will have accomplished in class, at least a part of it, but if not, he makes some interesting comments here at the top. He says, given the key and the 7th chord, supply the Roman numeral below. Okay, so as you can see in the example there, the very first problem, you're looking at a major 4, major 7 chord in C major. All right, and then supply the lead sheet symbol up top. So this is the time where you need to go back into chapter 3 and dust off your lead sheet symbols so that you remember what lead sheet symbol says F major 7th, or this chord. Okay, and so that would be capital F, big M, 7. Again, I think it's a really good idea to turn back in your book right at this point in the game and go back to the lead sheet page. That would be page 46. And look at that bottom line of 7th chord lead sheet symbols. All right? And dust those off because you're going to need those 7th chord lead sheet symbols across the top row of problems in this self-test that we're doing. So, again, even though Chapter 3 is in the rearview mirror, it's not really in the rearview mirror. It's very much needed to complete this assignment. So he says, include the lead sheet symbol above and the Roman numeral below. Just want to show you again, I'll circle it here, but notice in his first problem in the self-test there, I don't know if, can you see that? Yeah, you can. It's major 4, major 7, so he has to put the M in there. If you forget that M, you're saying that chord is major 4, 7, or major minor 7th, if you just say 7, right? I know I'm making a big deal of this on the video, but I hope I'm reaching you. So it's not proper to say that FACE natural is 4, 7. That's not correct. It's 4 major 7. If it happened to be FACE E flat, then you'd be right. It would be 4 major minor 7. Now, I always like to point out tricky things in the self-test to you. Let's look at number 2 in self-test 4. We are in E major, and from first glance, even up here at 10,000 feet flying over, I think everybody in the class can see, okay, this stack of notes is clearly not in root position. Let's figure out the bass position first. All right, so I see an E, a G sharp, a B, and a D sharp. All right, pretty clearly E is the root. But G sharp is the note that's in the lowest position. So this is a 7th chord in first inversion. So in my book, I'm going to go ahead and write 6-5 in there. Remember, it's a 7th chord, yes, but it's in first inversion. So it would not be proper to call this a 7-6-5. You're contradicting yourself by saying that. If you say 7, what you mean is this is a 7th chord in root position. So leave that number out of there. Just the numbers 6-5 are necessary here in problem number 2 because they say to the world and to the theory, people of the world, 6-5 says this is a 7th chord in first inversion. So E, G sharp, B, D sharp. That's the major 1, major 7. So you need Roman numeral 1, uppercase, big M, 6-5. Okay? And that says everything that needs to be said on the bottom row. Now, remember lead sheet symbols. I'm going up top now on number 2. Lead sheet symbols apply to the root of the chord. So we spelled that chord. I re-scrambled the notes and put them in, or unscrambled them and put them in root position. E, G sharp, B, D sharp. So my 7th chord or my lead sheet symbol has to be E something or other. So this is going to be E, big E, capital E, big M, E major 7 / G sharp. Now this is where it gets interesting because the information on the top row seems to contradict the information on the bottom row, but it really doesn't. Remember, lead sheet symbols are their own language. You're playing an E major 7th chord, for sure you are, and you happen to be playing it on a G sharp. That's what the top lead sheet symbol says to a pianist or a guitar player. Play an E major 7 chord, and oh, by the way, make sure G sharp's your lowest note. Well, down below, in theory terms, if you will, or in figured bass terms, you're saying 1 major 6-5. So it would seem that those two are contradicting one another. They're really not. So this is why I encourage you, go back to chapter 3 and really polish up what the lead sheet symbols look like. That's the top row there. And then in the bottom row, you have the figured bass that corresponds to that particular chord. So that's kind of a tricky thing. And when you have your answer laying there on the page, I could see a person suffering a certain amount of angst, looking at a 7 up top and looking at 6-5 down below. Well, do not be dismayed. That is correct. All right? Okay, so that's kind of how these problems work on page 63. The lead sheet symbols are given across the top, and the Roman numerals and bass position symbols are given on the bottom row. Okay, I'm about to wrap up this class period, this second review video, but as I started with the chapter 4 lecture a couple of days ago in class, I told you that if you memorized these 2 charts in the summary section in chapter 4, you would stand in pretty good shape for this quiz. Now, certainly it's not going to be everything that's on the quiz, but I will give you 2 empty charts and let you fill them in. Okay, to me, that's kind of cold recall. You just have to know the chords that occur on every single scale degree. Remember, the top row of boxes up here refer to triads. So major triads, minor triads. The bottom chart down here refers to major 7th chords and minor 7th chords. Or in other words, the 7th chords that occur on the major scale and the 7th chords that occur in the minor scale. That's what I meant to say. Here it's the triads that occur in the major scale, and here it's the triads that occur in the minor scale. All right, so you need to take time and memorize that chart and make sure that you are large and in charge on that. As I look back one page, on page 64, I see 15 bars of Roman numeral analysis that you have to do, including a base position symbol if needed. That would be mighty good practice for the quiz as well. So go ahead and do part C in your book, making sure that you do a vertical analysis of all the pitches underneath each blank and sort them out, come up with a Roman numeral that represents those pitches. For instance, in blank number 1 of part C there on page 64, I see an A, a C sharp, and an E. So in A major, the chord that is spelled A, C sharp, E would be uppercase Roman numeral 1. That's the 1 chord. All right. In blank 2, we have an F sharp, an A, and a C sharp. That's the chord that occurs on the 6th scale degree. F sharp, A, C sharp. That's the minor 6 chord, so lowercase 6, and so on. If the chord happens to be inverted, remember to show the proper bass position symbols to represent the position that the chord is in. So I would go through and do that Roman numeral analysis, making whatever mistakes it is that you make, and then go check it in the back of the book to make sure you know where you messed up and what mistakes you made. Okay, well, this is the video that represents Monday's class. This is part 2. And so on Friday afternoon, I assigned the back page of the homework. I think I did 32. Can't remember if I assigned that in class. But for sure, we're going to need to have pages 33 and 34 done when I get back in town. So you don't need to send me pictures of those. I will just collect them when I get back in town and grade them when I get here. So make sure you have pages 31, 32, 33, and 34 of the homework done, and I will collect them all when I get back in town. So you watch video part 1, you watch this video part 2. That's all for Monday. Remember, Katie Potter will be in on Wednesday to give you the class, to give you the quiz. And then on Friday, I'll have another video posted for you, which will be a review of chapters 3 and 4. So therein is our week. When I get back in town, the first Monday after Madrigal Choir gets back, we will have a chapter 3/chapter 4 test. So study hard, my friends. All right. God be with you.